section where we kind of have to pull from what we knew when it didn't have variables and stuff like that. With adding and subtracting, what were the rules that we remember? Okay, so that's why this is up here. It's not that you don't know how to do this. This is just, we just need to recall how we write things. Okay, and then we're going to carry it over to dividing long division, because you're going to have remainders where it doesn't go into there, so we just have to remember what it is that we do. Okay, well, hurry up, we're not waiting. So. Okay, all right, so the very first one, the way that we read this, okay, would be 125 is being divided by 5, right? Okay, so sometimes you would have it written out left to right where it would be this and then the division symbol and 5, okay? But when we write it as long division, this top number is what goes inside the divisor, okay? So it's 125. Okay, and then this bottom number is the one that goes outside. Okay, so it's 125 that is being divided by 5. Okay, so when it's written as a fraction, the top goes inside. Okay. Otherwise, when it's left to right, it's just the first one is on the inside divided by whatever they have as the second one. And you'll see examples of it in a minute. Okay, so way back, elementary school, we would have gone 12, because it doesn't go into 1, right? So we wouldn't write anything in that. So we go to the next number, which is 12. So 5 can go into 12 how many times? 2. Okay, so we put the 2 right up above where we are at now, right? And then what we're really doing is we're going this times this, right? 5 times 2 would give me 10. Okay, do I leave it as a positive 10? Because it is a positive 10 right now. What do? You subtract. So really what we do, and what we were trying to do, is switch the sign of it. Even though these were both positives, right? Okay, so we subtract, and we go 2, and then we bring down the next number. Okay, then we just start over. It's this divided by this, so 25 divided by 5 is 5, so we write it up at the top, and then we take this number and we multiply it times this. Okay, so 5 times 5 would give me 25. We write it down here, but I don't leave it as a positive, right? I switch it to the opposite sign, and then there's nothing left for us to divide, right? So there was no divisor, or no remainder on that one, okay? So remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. So some of the things we just don't realize we're doing, we just write it down there, and I know I'm supposed to subtract it, but really it was an add, so just keep that in mind. We got to do that same thing when we get to the variables. Good so far? Okay, so you got that written down, because I'm going to erase that and go to that second one. Okay. So we're going to try it again, but this time obviously it's not going to go in there. Okay, so this top one goes inside the divisor, and then on the outside is going to be 5. Okay, so same thing that we just did. Doesn't go into 1, but it does go into the 12, and we know it goes in there. Oops, I was going to write 5. Goes in there twice, right? We go 2 times 5, which is 10. We switch the sign. We go ahead and subtract, and then we bring down the next number. Okay, so now it's 5 that's going into 23. How many times does 5 go into 23? 4 times, right? So we write the 4 up at the top. Okay, so 4 times 5 would give me 20, but I switch the sign of it, right? And then I bring it down, and then there's no numbers to bring it down. This can't go into this, so this is called my remainder. Okay, so we write it as remainder of 3. Okay, so the only thing that would be different besides doing decimals, which you won't do decimals when we're doing the variables, is that you might see it written, so I want you to write this just so you can remember this. It would be written like this, or you would see it written as 24, and then this becomes your numerator, and then this becomes your denominator. And that just means that 3 is still being divided by 5, but you just can't. It doesn't go in there either way. Okay? So this is your remainder. This is what's on the outside. You just can't go any further. Okay? So sometimes it will have an R with the number. Other times you'll see it as the fraction. So those, like on the exercise especially. So you're like, why is there a fraction? That's where it's coming from. Okay, it's the remainder on top and then the number on the outside. Okay, so now we're going to try it. This is our first problem. Zane, I need you to find your notebook over there.
I still see the LQ lesson as well.
Well, I know, but
Okay.
you gotta do one. Okay, good. Okay, so remember the top number, and I'm going to end up having to scroll down. So the top number goes on the inside. Okay, and then this one's going on the outside. Okay, so we go first is being divided by first. Okay, so I'm going to write off the side. Some of you will start to do these in your head the more quicker you get. Just be careful of signs when you go to do these, okay? So really, this is what this looks like. It's 4x squared is being divided by x. So it's just the first with the first. You don't pay attention to any of the other stuff, okay? So if you were asked to simplify that, what would that be? 4x, right? Because there's no number to simplify right here, and then we just took a test on this. We moved the smaller to the larger and subtract, right? So that would be 4x. Okay, that is what you're writing in the first position. Okay, so 4x. Okay, now remember when we had the 2 and the 5, when it's written about that 4x, okay, when we had the 2 and the 5, I said we don't think about it, but really what we're doing is we're taking that top number and then multiplying it to what was on the outside to write it down here, okay? So this, because there's not just one thing, you're distributing it to both of these, okay? And then you're going to write it down here, okay? I'm just erasing this so it doesn't go with my number. Okay, so 4x times x would be 4x squared. 4x times 2, 8. That's positive 8, right? Okay, when I had 12 here and 10 below it, what did I say we had to do? Subtract, right? We had to switch the signs. Okay, so on this, you have to switch both of the signs. Okay, so switch. Both of them have to be switched, not just one. All right, so that gets rid of that, right? Because that's 4x squared minus 4x squared. But now you have a positive 2x and a and a negative 8x. So that would give me a negative what? 6x. Okay, so negative 6x, and then we bring down the next thing. Okay, so now we just start over our process. So it's the first one being divided by the first one. So it's really a negative 6x being divided by x. Negative 6, right? Because the x's, we cancel each other out. Okay, so remember, our answer to that goes up here, and it's a negative 6. Right, because the x's run away. Okay. So now we're going to do the same thing that we did with the red. Okay, we're going to do with the green. So a negative 6 times x would be a negative 6x. A negative 6 times 2 would be a negative 12. But I've got to what? Switch the signs. Okay, I just got to scroll this down. And you switch both of them. So switch. Okay, so switch. Okay, this always goes away. That's your whole goal. So one should be a positive, one should be a negative. Okay. And then what we have left is positive 5 and then positive 12, so that would be 17. Okay. Nothing else can be brought down, right? So that is going to be my remainder. Okay, so it's 4x minus 6. Okay, so again, you might see it when you have the answers on the exercise when you go to do these. It might be written as 4x minus 6, and then without the r, and then it would have 17 over this. And that just means that I couldn't go any further, okay, x plus 2, because 17 can't be divided by x. Okay, so that's just where I have to stop. And I believe that's the way some of them on the con, they want you to write it like that versus the remainder. I can't remember when I was helping somebody. Okay, again, that's your first one. Okay, so let's try this again. Okay, so before we do this, I'm going to point something out because this one's just a tad bit different. Okay, so notice when these are lined up, it's x squared is being lined up with x squared. X is being lined up with x, right? And then even when we go down here, x is being lined up with x, and then the whole number with the whole number, right? Okay, so keep that in mind. We're going to get started on this. Okay, so number 2. So this goes in the inside. So it's negative x to the third minus 2x plus 7. And then on the outside is x plus 1. Okay, so remember, first with the first. So it's a negative x to the third over x. Be a negative what? Negative x to the second. Okay, so we write that up at the top, negative x to the second. Okay, we distribute it back to what's on the outside. So it's always going to be the same as that first one, right? So that times that's going to give you a negative x to the third. That times that's going to be a negative x to the second. Okay, now if you were listening to what I just said on that previous one, what's wrong?
That's what's the signs.
Not yet. Yes, that's right, but what did I just show you on those previous screens? They don't line up, right? Because this has an x squared and this one has an x. You have to add and subtract them like terms, right? And those are not like terms. Okay, so purposely, I'll point that out. So right below that, we're going to rewrite this. And I'll do the next one when that happens. Okay, so when you start these problems, you need to make sure that they're in descending order. Okay, so I have a negative x to the third. Do I have an x to the second? No. So I need place value 0 x to the second. That means I don't have one. Okay, so there's an x to the third and x to the second. Do I have one that just has an x? Yeah. Okay. So negative 2x. And then after just an x to the 1, then it's just the whole number, which we have. Okay. Okay, now I'll write this back on the outside. We did it right, we're just going to bring it back down, so now we have things like that. Okay, so it's still a negative x a second, that didn't change it. Okay, so now I have a negative x to the third minus x to the second, and then Brody said we need to do what? Switch the signs, right? So switch. Okay, so these go away. They're lined up now, right? These go away. What is this?
Nothing. Well,
Yeah.
cancels out.
What's the number in front of this? A 1, right? Okay, so it's just going to be 1x to the second coming down because 0 is not going to change it, right? Okay, so 1x to the second, bring down my next one, which is a negative 2x. I got to step up.
If we get rid of the 1.
Okay, so starting again in different colors. The first divided by the first. So 1x to the second divided by x. This is going to be what?
Just
X. Okay, so plus x. Okay, we distribute it back. Remember, and it should always match what's here. Okay, so x times x is x squared. X times 1 is 1x. But then I have to change the sign. So switch, switch. Okay, that goes away. Remember, that's always our goal, is to get rid of those first ones. So that goes away. So I have a negative 2x and a negative 1x. So that would be a negative 3x. Okay, and then we have one more to bring down. Okay, first with the first. So it's a negative 3x be divided by x. What is it? Negative 3. because the x's go away, right? So negative 3 goes up here. So notice what I have written up above, like they're descending order, like it should be, okay? So x squared down to only 1x down to where there's no number. Okay, distributing it back should always match if you're doing it right. It does if you got something wrong. Okay, so negative 3 times 1 is a negative 3, but then I've got to switch. What's my remainder? 10.
So we do like do R 10, we get 10
Over x plus 1.
Okay.
Yeah. They would both be the same. Okay. This one I want you to try on your own. This is just like our last one, except there's a problem. What? It's not in order, right? Okay, make sure we put place value if we're missing something. Okay, so I'll get it written up for you and you're going to try it. Try to follow your steps. Okay, so we would have 3x to the third, and then what?
Do you switch the 6x? Or do you just put?
You will, but what do we have to have after the x?
zero.
There you go. Okay, and that's just like the last one we did. Okay, so we have a 3, we have a 2, and what? 6x. And then the one with just an x. And then negative 2. So now everything's in descending order. Okay, well, how is it written on the outside? Good. Has to be in descending order. So 3x. Okay, so now you're going to put first. Okay, and I'll do it on the board. I just want you to try it on your own without me going guided so much.
Question.
Yes.
So if it was x squared plus 9, would we also put a placeholder, just an x, or would we just?
On the outside?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Okay, so first with first. So we have 3x to the third being divided by 3x. What? X squared, right? Because the 3's go away. So x squared goes up here. So that times that, remember we always know it's going to be the same as this one if you did it right. Okay, and then that times that would give me 9x squared. Okay, what do I do now? Change the sign. Switch. Make sure you do both. People want to just do that first one, and that's where you'll mess up the rest of it. So just make sure it's both. Okay, so that goes away. That's the whole goal. Okay, this would give me a negative 9x squared. We break down the next one. Okay, first with first. So a negative 9x squared is being divided by 3x. Negative 3x. Okay, and then again, notice we're descending, so that is a pattern that you're following, okay? So now I'm distributing back to each of those, and again, should match up, it does, so I know I'm doing this right. Okay, negative 3 times 9 is going to give me negative 27. X, and there was no x, it stays an x, it's matching up, right? Switch. Okay, that goes away, that gives me 33 and an x. I gotta scroll this down. Okay, so 33 x, and then I bring down my last one, which is a negative 2. So 33x being divided by 3x. Okay, so the x's go away, and that would leave me 11. Okay, so I would write, scrolled a little too far. Positive 11 at the top. Okay, so that times that gives me 33x. It matches. That times that gives me 99. Okay, but I've got to switch. That goes away, and there was nothing more to bring down, and this has an x, this doesn't, so what is my remainder? Right, remainder of a negative. Not bad, is it? It's just remembering your pattern. I think if you remember that pattern, switch, and just keep on going down, the only mistakes you're probably going to make is you're adding and subtracting, because then that just throws the whole thing off. So paying attention to positives and negatives. Okay? That is this whole section. Okay? So you only have 7 to try on your own. Okay? We don't have school tomorrow. Monday we will grade those 7. And if you messed up horribly, we will do all of them on the board. There's only 7 to do. Okay, hopefully you'll get it after doing a couple, but we will do a lesson quiz because that's really the pattern, is to do the notes and make sure you're asking lots of questions so you're ready for the lesson quiz, not like spending multiple days before the lesson quiz. Okay, and then on the lesson quiz you're handing in what? Your notes. Those are easy points. Okay, although there's only 3 this time, but it's going to be a shorter quiz. It won't be worth that much compared to the last section where there was a lot of problems. Okay. Okay. So the paper that you're getting, you're not doing the first 3, so you're just doing these ones done. Okay. You will have one of them. I can't remember which one it is. Where you'll only have like this and the remainder. Because like when you line it up, one of them like goes away, like it's a 0. Okay, so don't think you did something wrong. You'll have one thing and then a remainder of another. Right, because I already did it with you. Yeah. And then we'll just grade those on nothing. Okay, 11 days and counting for pond. Okay, these are on there as well, so you're learning some things maybe that when you went there you didn't know how to do.
So,